Welcome to camp. How you doing, guys? It's always a treat to be able to just sit down here and just chat with all of you. And I know some of you are disappointed that we're not going to be having Camp Good News this summer. Well, you know what? It's disappointing for us as well. But God already knew that this was going to happen, and you and I need to trust Him in all things, even if they don't work out the way we think they should. I want to talk to you about a little girl in 2 Kings chapter 5. And this little girl needed to trust God with her whole heart. This little girl was missing her whole family because the country of Israel was at war with the country of Syria. And the Syrians won the war. And because they won the war, they took all the gold and the cattle and the possessions that the Israelites had, and they even took some people to be their slaves. Well, this little girl could have been playing outside. We don't know. She could have been in her room when the attack happened. But this we do know, that a soldier picked her up, put her in his chariot, and took off. She was not able to say goodbye to her family. She would probably never see her family again. How do you think that little girl felt? I think she was scared. I think she was probably sad. Maybe at times she was angry. But even when things seem to be really, really bad, you and I can still trust God, and that is exactly what she did. In 2 Kings chapter 5, we read that she was given to a man that had a very, very high position in the Syrian army. His name was Naaman. He was a general. Kind of gave her as a prize. Here you go, I brought you this. And she became a servant to Naaman's wife. I tell you what, she must have worked hard. She must have worked real hard, doing all kinds of chores, housekeeping, dishes, washing clothes. But this little girl, as she was living there, she found out that Naaman was sick. He had a disease called leprosy. And this leprosy, there was no cure, and Naaman was going to die. So when this little girl would see Naaman's wife as sad, this little girl probably was very sad herself. And then she says, I know somebody who can help. And she said, there's a man named Elisha, and he lives in Samaria. He can help. I know he can. See, Naaman was rich and he was popular. He had everything he needed, but he needed God to do something in his life that no money could do. So she said, Elisha took Elijah's mantle and he slapped the water with it, and the river Jordan parted, and he also caused a big lake to form so the Israelites wouldn't die of thirst, and he even caused a little boy to raise from the dead. Well, Naaman finds out and he goes to see his king, and he tells him that, and the king was so excited. He gave him all kinds of gold and silver, and he even wrote a letter, bring this to the king of Israel. So that letter was brought with Naaman and his men to the king of Israel, and the king said, who does he think he is? I'm not God. I can't cure him. I can't do this. It's got to be a trick. It has to be a trick. He wants to start a war with me. But Elisha, the prophet of God, heard of that, and he said, send him to see me. Tell him to come see me. So Naaman went to see Elisha, and Elisha said, just go to the river Jordan and dip yourself. Wash yourself 7 times and you'll be okay. He was not very happy. He said, the rivers are cleaner where I come from. I could have done that home. But ultimately, he followed God's recipe, and he was clean. You and I are kind of like Naaman. We have a leprosy called sin. We're born in sin. All have sinned and come short of the glory of God. And because of that, our Lord Jesus had to be born of a virgin. Left heaven, be born of a virgin, and he grew up, and at 33 years old, he was nailed to a cross, dying for the sin of the world, that whosoever would call upon his name trust Him for forgiveness of sin would be saved. And I say this because even in the midst of any difficult situation, God can still give us the victory. Well, this little maid was faithful wherever she was. She was a good witness to the Lord. And you and I can be faithful right where we are today. Maybe your faithfulness means that you have to obey your parents in the Lord. Be a good example to others. Lord willing, we're going to see you back here at Camp Good News soon. Maybe this winter. See you later.